Good morning. Today, we're looking at the following essential questions as we close read a second poem called How Things Work. We're going to look at essential question number 2, how do strategic readers create meaning from literary text? Essential question number 4, what is literary text really about? And essential question number 5, how does interaction with text provoke thinking and response? As we read through this, just like every other poem, we're going to close read it for what the text says, how the text says it, and why the text matters. In our first read, as we read through for what the text says, as you read the poem How Things Work by Gary Soto, we're going to read the text for what the text is about by creating an objective summary of the text. As we read through to create an objective summary of the text, we're looking at learning target number 5, which is to create an objective summary of the text. You're making a brief restatement of the most important points of the text. If it has a plot, some poems do, some poems are just, not plot-based and more just showing feelings and emotions. But if it is a poem with a plot, make sure that you're including all of the plot elements from the exposition to the resolution, centering around the conflict. But if it's a poem that's capturing strong emotions, make sure that you're going through the same emotions in your own words as the author in chronological order from the beginning to the middle to the end without including your personal opinions on the poem and without including quotes from the poem. Make sure it's fully in your own words. As you read through for the second reading of this piece, for how the text says it, you're going to read through How Things Work by Gary Soto, looking at phase 2. What's the impact of the structure of the poem? And to cite text evidence to support your response. As we read through for what is the impact of the structure of the poem, we're looking at learning target number 10 to analyze how a drama or a poem's form or structure contributes to its meaning. When we look at how the structure contributes to its meaning, we're looking at how the structure contributes to the main point, the theme, the message of the text. So we look closely at the form of the poem, how it's laid out on the page, the structure, or of a drama, for how that layout actually helps add to the poem's message or theme, the meaning, the reason behind why the poem was written. When you look at structure, that's how it's laid out on the page. It could be pretty much anything that's an appearance for structure on the page, like the meter or beat pattern, headings, titles, punctuation mark, enjambment, which is that poetic feature where there's no punctuation at the end of the line because that sentence continues on to the next line. It could be types of sentences used by the author. For dramas, we talk about it as the specific dramatic structure elements, such as having a cast of characters, stage directions, or dialogue, which is important to review since it's been a while since we looked at the structure of a drama. But for this, we are looking at the structure for poems. So some of the key structural elements for poems that we've discussed is end rhyme, and the impact is that it gives it a musical quality by creating rhythm, which adds to the mood. Or 2, the sonnet structure, which is a poem 14 lines with an A-B pattern, and then a rhyming couplet, G at the end. We talked about an ode, which is a poem written to praise something. We talked about lyrics, which are poems with a single speaker expressing their inner thoughts and feelings. And then we talked about the free verse. That's the poem that doesn't follow any set rules. It has no set rhyme scheme and no set structure. It doesn't even follow the rules of grammar, spelling sometimes, and even punctuation. It's just a rule breaker, the free verse. So make sure that you're thinking about, for this case, since it's a poem, some of these structural elements that you think you notice as you answer this phase. As we also answer this phase, I am asking that you give me cited text evidence. Remember, as we cite text evidence, we're citing it in the form of a direct quote as we look at learning target number 1. And as we introduce our answer to this question, we're making our answer as our claim. So our opening sentence should be our claim, where we put in our own words our opinion, our claim, our answer that addresses the task of that question in phase 2. And remember that phase 2 question is what is the impact of the structure of the poem? Please begin your answer with the following. The poem's written using the what structure. So look at that list of different structural elements and structural types and make sure you pick one to fill in that blank from this video. And then you would finish that statement with, the poem is written using the blank structure, emphasizing what, showing what, or revealing what. Remember, whatever you put for emphasizing, showing, or revealing should focus on how it helps out the text as a whole, how it connects back to the main message, theme, or importance of that text as a whole. And then follow that sentence with your cited text evidence. And that would follow your evidence with your analysis where you connect your quote back to your claim. As you do that, you will be completing phase 2 appropriately. In phase 3, we're looking for why the text matters. As we read through for why the text matters, we're going to focus on answering the following question. I want you to reread the text. We're going to focus this time on how the author uses figurative language in the poem. And I want you to cite text evidence to support your response. As we read through this phase, we are focusing on learning target number 11, which is to determine the author's use of meaning of words or phrases, including figurative and connotative meanings. That means to decide how the author uses the meaning of words or phrases, including figurative. So that would be like our figurative language, which has no literal, but rather metaphorical and deeper meanings to it. Or you could focus on the connotative meaning, which is that feeling or implied meaning that a word might have. To answer these questions, we really look at how the author reveals, suggests, shows, indicates, implies, hints at, foreshadows, but you want to connect it back to how it does so to impact, again, just like in phase 2, that entire text as a whole. You want to begin your response with the following. The author uses figurative language to emphasize, show, reveal, indicate, or suggest or highlight what. So in this case, I do want you to focus on the figurative language you notice in the piece. But we're looking at how the figurative language moves beyond the impact in just that line, and how the figurative language actually does connect to the piece as a whole. How does it connect to the overall message or theme of the piece as a whole by using that figurative language? So make sure after that dot, you finish that sentence off, you finish your claim off with your answer that connects back to how that figurative language, in fact, contributes to the main point, purpose, message, or theme of the entire text. It's really a deep question. Once you answer that, or once you make that claim and you rate that initial sentence, you follow it with your cited text evidence. Obviously, make sure the text evidence is the quote from the piece that uses figurative language. You want to make sure there's figurative language present in your cited evidence. And then make sure you analyze that evidence. After the quote, make sure you connect it back to your claim. In other words, explaining what the type of figurative language is and how that figurative language you think helps to contribute to the whole meaning or message of the piece. And then you'll be done with this close read for the poem, How Things Work. Tomorrow we are close reading How Things Work with the poem Dump and looking at comparing and contrasting different features in a close read. Go ahead and get to work on this activity.